my beloved daughter, I graduated from middle school and attended high school at your aunt's house in the city. Coming from the countryside, I didn't have the chance to experience anywhere else in the city except for my aunt's house and school, like the typical high school students at that time. Occasionally, I would take a bus for about an hour to run errands for my aunt, delivering items to the busiest street in the city. Those errands made me realize that the time I spent going to my aunt's house was the only reminder of my life, transitioning from a small rural village to the city. Along the neatly paved streets, lined with colorful shops, bustling with well-dressed city folks, amidst the hustle and bustle, I often felt like a stranger from another planet among the multitude of people. But over about a year, I gradually adapted to life, both at school and in the city. It was spring, the beginning of my second year of high school. The house where I stayed with my aunt was near a famous beach, and the neighboring houses had quaint fences and colorful gates, each with a small yard adorned with a magnolia tree. In spring, the large white magnolia blossoms would bloom profusely. On mornings when magnolias were in full bloom, mixed with the scent of flowers, the sea breeze carried the fragrance, and I would sit on a small rock in the corner of the yard, gazing at the sky, feeling a vague longing. My aunt would tease me, saying I looked lost in my thoughts whenever I sat there quietly. Even on Sundays when I didn't have to go to school, I found myself on a bus heading to the bustling downtown area of the city for my aunt's errands. Since our neighborhood was the bus terminus, I would sit in my favorite seat on the empty bus, watching the scenery outside the window and the sunlight reflecting on the glass, contemplating about my future. As time passed, the bus started filling up with people, and one day, an elderly lady with a cane boarded at a bus stop. Being a student, I quickly stood up and offered her my seat. As she thanked me and complimented my appearance, I felt my face turning red with embarrassment. Turning my head, I noticed a college student sitting behind me, staring at me. Our eyes met briefly, and I turned back, looking out the window, pretending not to notice. That incident left me feeling uneasy, but I soon forgot about the college student as we reached our destination. Lost in my thoughts, I finished my aunt's errands and found myself gazing at the clothes displayed on the mannequins in the store, reminiscing about my family back home. I dreamed of graduating from school, earning money, and buying beautiful clothes for my mother and siblings. I wished for my hardworking mother, always dressed in work clothes, to wear something pretty and go on a family trip together. I suddenly heard someone saying hello behind me. Startled, I turned around to find the college student who had stared at me on the bus. He quickly introduced himself, explaining that he had followed me from the bus stop out of curiosity. He was a sophomore in college, waiting for the bus to the library when he saw me and decided to follow. At that moment, I was too timid to respond, my mind frozen, unable to think. Without saying a word, I quickly made an excuse and boarded the bus home, even though he continued to follow me. I wanted to ask why he was following me, but I couldn't bring myself to speak up. Arriving home, I tried to brush off the encounter as just a strange happening. The following day at school, I shared the experience with my close friends. Their imaginations ran wild, concocting romantic stories about my encounter with the college student. Their fantasies amused me, but little did I know that the encounter would turn into a real-life romance. I thought the incident would end as a mere happening, but a week later, after school, I found the college student waiting for me at the school gate. He handed me a letter and waved goodbye before disappearing. My friends were ecstatic, but I was bewildered, not knowing how to react. During my high school years, dating could lead to expulsion, and being from a conservative rural background, dating before the age of 20 was strictly forbidden. Back then, even for a brief outing, students had to wear their school uniforms with a school badge displayed. Sometimes teenagers would sneak out in regular clothes, only to face severe consequences if caught, with their names prominently displayed at the school gate, along with the punishments assigned. I grew up with a sense of responsibility not to disappoint my mother, who worked hard in our small village. Dating before turning 20 was considered a taboo. The college student had managed to find out which school I attended by recognizing my school uniform and badge. Thus began my first love. He would wait for me diligently every day, handing me letters and occasional gifts, showing genuine affection and warmth. The letters were filled with heartfelt sentiments and depicted his family life in contrast to my humble upbringing in the countryside. He came from a more affluent household, where he received love and attention from his warm-hearted parents. His consistent presence and gestures gradually endeared him to me. On rainy days, he would offer me his umbrella. During that time, I was starving for warm attention and affection, eagerly awaiting him every day, smiling at me and turning back as if he had come riding on a white horse like a prince. However, as a year passed and I entered the spring of my third year of high school, he disappeared without a word. Every day, I had painful moments of waiting, wondering if he would be waiting for me in front of the school. The agonizing wait, like my heart being soaked in salt, made me realize that the scars of first love lingered in my heart for a long time as I meditated and tried to extract memories of first love. And the time I met him again was one day when I was preparing to graduate from high school and go to college. As a country girl, I was very sensitive and emotional, and the painful waiting I had while waiting for him awakened my deeply ingrained pessimistic nature, and I suffered from depression due to the wounds of first love. After a year of silence, he appeared again, looking perfectly fine, smiling at me as I came and went from the house where I stayed. I didn't want to believe that he had left me, but the harsh reality was that his changed heart had left a long-lasting scar in my heart. After 6 months of painful waiting, I, along with my friends, visited the music cafe he often mentioned in his letters to see how he was doing. I hoped that something bad might have happened to him, preventing him from coming to me. Even though my heart was hurting, I wanted to confirm the fact that I had been abandoned silently to sort out my feelings. Wanting to know exactly why he didn't come to me, my friends and I disguised ourselves as adults, taking off our school uniforms, and visited the music cafe he frequented. That day, through the owner of the cafe, we confirmed that he occasionally came there. He was just living his daily life, perfectly fine. At that moment, I was so betrayed that I couldn't even shed tears. The certainty that he had a clear reason for not coming shattered all the painful times I had spent comforting myself. If he had just honestly said that he had momentarily lost interest in me, maybe I wouldn't have developed such a deep distrust of love. But instead, he lied to me, saying he couldn't come to me because he was too sick and had to take a leave of absence from school to get treatment in the countryside. Hearing his lies, I felt not the pain of the end of first love, but the bitterness of having loved and suffered for someone with such a personality. I was angry at myself for loving someone who had left me, and I felt my wasted time waiting for him was worthless. I felt so worthless. I cried because I felt so foolish to have held fantasies about love and to have had such naive beliefs about him. My first love shattered all the fantasies I had about true love. It left me with a deep, dark feeling of distrust in my heart, and since then, I have never had unconditional trust in romantic relationships. Unconsciously, I always thought that the other person might change their mind and leave me. Meditating on the memories of first love, I realized why I had failed in several relationships. The pain of my first love was so intense that I didn't want to experience it again. I didn't trust men who claimed to love me anymore. When someone said they loved me, I wondered how long their love would last if I looked at them. My love became nothing more than a transaction. I loved as much as you loved me. I didn't believe in any love that came to me and always prepared to leave. Because of my personality, those who loved me wholeheartedly left me, causing me pain. Those who left me with scars became another wound in my heart, and I became more disinterested in romantic relationships. For me, love became a fair relationship where I gave what I needed and received what the other person needed. When the fairness of love that I thought of collapsed, I became more detached from the other person. Now, my heart is full of love, and if you ask me the happiest moments in my life, I can confidently say that it was the time I spent meditating and gradually removing the painful pieces of sadness lodged in my heart, realizing that I was throwing away many versions of myself who had loved and suffered. My heart, filled with love, is happy every moment. The world is full of love and is so beautiful with its light. This, I have come to believe, is true happiness. I met myself, who erased love from my heart out of fear of too much pain, and as I gradually removed the painful thorns lodged in my heart, I began to feel my warm heart come alive, realizing that my love is infinite. So I don't need to receive love from others, but rather I can give love to everyone. I am happy to become someone who can give love, not someone who begs for love. My heart is full of love, and I am happy every moment. The world is full of love, and it is so beautiful with its light.